taken a peek at the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the Ford Ranger Raptor. Now, the cluster screen setup is going to be similar in the Lariat trim. It's going to be different in the XL and the XLT. So if you want walkthroughs on the other versions of the Ranger, you'll find those down in the description of this video. So this is really going to be Raptor specific. But first thing I'm going to point out is that the wheel is solid. You've got all these nice red highlights that wrap all the way throughout. The wheel is also heated. So down by your left or your right knee there, you've got a button that you can push on your climate control settings in order to be able to toggle the heated seats on along with the heated steering wheel. So single level, and it's heated all the way around. The steering wheel is also manual telescoping. So just down by your left knee, there's a release there. Go in, out, up or down to find that perfect position. Once you do, click it, lock it back into place. And one thing I will point out as well, there is seat memory. So in some versions of the Ranger, that is available. So all you're going to do is adjust your seat the way that you'd like. You're going to push and hold either 1, 2, or 3 for it to remember your own personal profile. So very useful if you've got multiple people driving the vehicle. But looking at the wheel itself, there are a lot of things you're going to need to know. The stalks on the left-hand side, so left stalk versus right. So you've got the option, obviously, of using your blinkers. You can flash out your high beams, but the vehicle is in an auto headlamp mode right now because I'm in the auto light mode. So down by your left knee, there's a rocker switch in order for you to adjust the different light modes. You're going to be in automatic the majority of the time. But what that means is that if the vehicle recognizes high beams are needed, it's automatically going to turn them on. If somebody's oncoming, it's going to turn them off before bringing them right back on again. You can flash your high beams out in auto mode, but if you want them permanently locked out, just go into your headlamp mode instead. You can push away to turn your high beams on permanently, pull towards you in order to turn them off. And I was like, ooh, why is the steering wheel getting toasty? Didn't turn it off. From there, you've also got a few other switches. You can turn your fog lamps on or off, and then there's also a switch to adjust the brightness of the cluster screen as well. Stick on the right-hand side is going to be for your wipers, so you can move up, down as necessary there. When you're in the second mode up, you could then adjust this in order to make it go faster. So it's essentially in an intermittent mode. How fast is that rain hitting the windshield? You can then also pull towards you to get that wiper fluid going. The truck has paddle shifters, and they work so incredibly well. So you've got your minus on the left-hand side, plus on the right-hand side. So if you wanted to drop gears in order to be able to pick up some speed and launch forward, you could. Up gears as necessary. But if you've never used paddle shifters before, I've put together a walkthrough video explaining how it's done. The video is on the Ford Mustang, but it works the exact same way, whether you're in the Mustang, the Ranger, any other vehicle as well, even if you have like a stock or a column shifter or one of the center console shifters instead. So let's dive through other buttons. You've got the adaptive cruise control system, so you can toggle it on this way. And then from there, once you get it to the speed that you like, or even if you want to, you can just hit set. So either up or down to set, and then you can increase or decrease 1 kilometer, 1 mile per hour at a time. You can push and hold up in order to get to the nearest 0 if you're in Canada, so 0 kilometers an hour. So you're essentially going up or down up to 10 at a time. And then if you're in the States, you're going up or down 5 at a time for miles per hour. There's a distance indicator. So it's how close or far are you away from the vehicle that's in front of you. I want you to think of that almost like a 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi type of a scenario. So 1 is going to be okay in residential streets, 2 or 3, or even 1 really on the highways, just depending on if you're in stop and go traffic, your own personal comfort levels as well. This is a lane keeping system. So that one works 3 different ways, and it's based off of how you have it set up inside of the infotainment system. So if we go into our controls there, you can see a series of different options. So you've got your driver assistance settings where you'd be able to adjust your cruise control. So do you want to be in normal or adaptive cruise? Normal is exactly that. Let's say if you set the speed at 100 kilometers an hour, it's going to hold you at 100. If the car in front of you slows down, yours is not going to brake. Versus the adaptive, if the car in front of you starts slowing down, yours is automatically going to brake as well. If they change lanes, pick up speed, whatever the case may be, it's going to pick you back up to your previously set speed. So I'm a big fan of that one. Lane centering, with the adaptive cruise control on, it's going to keep you perfectly balanced in your lane. So it's not self-driving, it's not Ford's Blue Cruise system, but it's a nice way to kind of keep you perfectly balanced, just in case you lose focus for a second. Speed sign recognition, it's kind of an interesting one. There's also a tolerance level. So where that comes into play is, let's say if you're on a road with a 50 speed limit, and then it goes from 50 to 80, it's automatically going to increase your speed. If it goes from 80 to 50, it's going to decrease your speed. But that's based off of a tolerance level. Like, are you okay with going over or under the speed limit, and by how much? So you can go up to 30 kilometers an hour either way, faster or slower. Not a fan of that one, but that's a matter of preference. Speed limit assist, you can get a speed warning as well, and then intelligent assist means that it can automatically lower your speed as necessary. There's also a speed limiter button on the steering wheel there as well, and that's going to limit you at whatever your current road speed is. From there, lane keeping system works 3 different ways. First one is going to be the alert. So if you start to veer over into a lane without signaling, it's going to shake the steering wheel, almost as if you're running over a rumble pavement or there's something wrong with your alignment. There's not, it's just that you're cutting into a lane without signaling. The aid is going to nudge you back into your lane, and then the alert and the aid will do both. So you'll get a shake, and then it'll nudge you back into your lane. And then what's the intensity of the steering wheel shake? So you can just kind of see it going there. So it's very, very subtle, but that is available. When you've got the adaptive cruise system going, you can push here to pause, cancel, resume, whatever the case may be. You can hit the brake and then resume. But if you want to see the cruise control system used in person, check down in the description of this video for a video on how that's done. You can increase, decrease volume. There's no physical mute button on the steering wheel, so you could just hit the volume button down the center in order to actually mute yourself out that way instead. Then there's a voice command prompt where you'd be able to do things like change songs, radio stations. You can navigate using your voice. You can set the temperature to something different as well. So there's a lot of flexibility there. And then if you're hooked up over Android or iPhone devices, you can do a longer push and hold in order to activate either your Google or your Siri assistant instead.
Search for your vehicle on your device and select it once it is found.
So you can see there, so it wants us to be able to add a phone in that way instead. So it is useful from that perspective. Along the right-hand side, there are a series of other buttons, so you can change between all of your available presets. So you can see there, it's kind of jumping between all of our presets on the screen. You could also do a longer push and hold if you wanted it to act as a seek button instead. So that is available. So what I normally recommend, though, just voice command prompt to change your station that way. Then there are a series of other modes specifically for the Raptor. So you can change out your exhaust mode. There are 4 unique modes that are available. There's also the option of adjusting your dampers and your steering. So I'll touch on that one as we get closer to the cluster screen. And then you've got a Raptor mode specifically. So you can see what you've got currently set up. And then you can push that again in order to enter your Ranger Raptor mode. So you can set things up uniquely for you. So do you want to be in normal modes, normal steering? What do you want your dampers to be like? And things like that. And then there's a switch to go between all of the options inside of the cluster. So on that note, in the cluster, there's so much to cover off. So you've got your traditional tachometer off to the left-hand side, speedometer off to the right. So we can see there we go, what gear are you currently in? So park, reverse, neutral, drive, etc. And then there's also a manual mode on the very bottom. So manual is going to let you shift out your gear. It's a little bit easier there, so a bit more control. You can use your paddle shifters regardless of whether you're in the manual mode or not. And then back from there. So 10-speed automatic transmission, which is great. So you're going to see you jump between gears as you go there. So like I said, you could also use your paddles to do it that way instead. You've currently got what's going on the very bottom there as well. So you've got your current modes. You've also got outside temperature. If you've got a song that's currently playing, that's going to show up there. There we go, do that. Get that glare out of the way for you. From there, you've also got what direction you're facing, your current vehicle odometer, if the auto start stop system is engaged or not, so you can toggle that one off. There's a switch down the center stack there to toggle it on or off. Whether or not the lane keeping system is turned on or off there as well. You've got your gauges along the very top, so you can kind of customize these gauges to a degree. So you've got different ones, oil temperature, transmission, as well as your current fuel gauge. And then you're using the rocker here in order to jump between some different screens. So let's readjust you a little bit here, make it a bit easier to see what I'm doing. So we've got a few different screens that are available here. So seatbelts, whether or not you're plugged in, driver assistance settings, your different trip counters. On all of the trip counters, you can push and hold OK in order to reset. So there's a counter that's going. You just have to push and hold until it's fully reset there. Boom, in order to zero it back out again. And then you've got your current fuel economy as well. And then auto start stop, which has been deactivated by me. So I'm personally not a fan of it, but it's a matter of preference. You can't permanently lock that switch out, unfortunately. Hitting the back button here is going to bring you to a few other options. So you've got your basic trip counters, but If you hit it again, you get to this view. So you've got your My View here, which gives you the option of adjusting this. So you can go to this basic calming screen instead, which if you don't like too much in your cluster, I mean, that just makes it so much simpler in comparison. You can see fuel economy, your trip 1 counter, or push OK in order to show what's showing up in your My View. Do you want your off-road status there, your pitch and roll? Do you want your Raptor status, my gauges, etc.? And now everything's grayed out. So if we go back though, we've added a bunch of different screens in. So you've got fuel economy, trip counter, off-road status. So you can see your vehicle's pitch and roll. You can see your current steering angle there as well. So very useful if you're off-roading. If you've decided to switch your trail control on, off, whatever the case may be, that's also available. And as we go down, pitch and rolls there, your Raptor status. So if you've set up a unique My mode, you can see what's going on with some additional gauges there as well. And then you can reconfigure some screens. If you hop back and back again, you can then enter your off-road mode specifically, which gives you off-road status, pitch and roll. So you'll see a number of these things that are kind of duplicated a few different ways. But I mean, it is kind of neat and very useful at the same time if you really like to look at all of those additional measurements. And then back again is going to bring us to a tow mode. No trailers connected, but you can see towing, light status information, and things like that as well. So if you've got a trailer connected. Back again is going to give you a series of navigation settings. So you can look at your home address if that's available, previous destinations, point of interest icons. So you can see if there are gas stations, if there's lodging nearby. And then if we
obey traffic laws, be alert and use voice commands while driving.
So not full mapping cluster
Please
there.
drive to highlighted route.
That's one thing I'd like to see is actual mapping cluster, but you've at least got some teeny little turn-by-turn directions up at the very top there. And then let's just cancel the route out on the screen. There we go. And there we go. Nice and simple. And if we go back, we've got phone. So if you had a phone connected, information would show up there. So making phone calls in your contacts and things like that. Audio, you can change between all of your available sources. So AM, FM, Sirius, XM. But like I was saying, just use the voice command prompt to change stations out that way instead. Basic settings. You can configure your top gauges. So there are selectable gauges at the very top. You can show or hide them if you want to. So the two on the outside, those are always stuck into place, unless you're in the calming screen. But then you could show, or choose, I should say, what's showing up in all of these other options. So if you'd rather have your inlet air temperature, your cylinder head temp, you've got the flexibility to do that specifically for either the left or the right customizable gauges. Do you want to show your turn-by-turn directions? We saw that earlier when we had a route going. Secondary speedometer. So this is a US spec vehicle. So you've got miles per hour as the default, but you can go to kilometers an hour, and it'd be the opposite in Canadian spec vehicles as well. Shift indicators. Do you want it yay or nay? I'm not crazy about the idea of a shift. Yeah, so you can see there. Ideally, this is when you're shifting, when you hit 4,000 RPM, but you can also change your shift point as well. So that, like I said, I'm not too crazy about it. You can have a little tone as you go to shift, but you'll hear it like 3, 4, 5,000 RPM. That's when you're going to want to start pushing up in order to change your gears. So, but like I said, if you want a full walkthrough on paddles, you'll find it down in the description of this video. And you've got basic vehicle maintenance information. So you can see your tire pressure, engine information. So your oil life, yeah, oil's going to have to get changed there. If you're doing oil changes yourself, just push and hold OK in order to reset your oil life. And you can also look at it from this perspective as well. Straightforward. So you do have quite a little bit of flexibility here. Not a ton, but just a little bit. And then you've also got your Raptor specific. So this one brings you into your Raptor mode. So on this one, as we go, yeah, you can see there. So it's locked out our rear diff, put us into 4 high and a few other things. You could adjust your overall modes though, so down the center stack. So you've also got a series of other options, and each one of these are going to do something different. So rock crawl, you're going to be in 4 low, so you have to shift it in neutral. Baja's available for more like off-road sandy situations, and the Baja mode works so well. Way better than a low-speed sand mode. There's off-road specifically, so more for just like general off-road purposes. Normal is exactly that, just a basic mode. Sport is going to hold on to your RPMs a little bit longer, just to give you a sportier performance. But you'll see some of these are going to knock you into 4 high, 4 low, whatever the case may be. Tow haul mode is going to be different. Slippery is going to play with traction stability control, things like that as well. So like I said, like it's going to do something different. You're going to be in 4 auto in some situations, 4x4 mode, whatever the case may be. So normal mode, the majority of the time. Sport mode is a heck of a lot of fun though. And then like you saw there, you've got your customizable Raptor mode, so you can set something up yourself. From here, you've got 4 different exhaust modes. So quiet, normal, sport, quiet, normal, sport, or Baja. So let's hop outside. I'll let you listen to what those sound like. So aggressive. But you can even see down the bottom there, as you adjust out to your different mode, it tweaks that out. Same thing with your dampers. So very useful if you are going off-road for better overall suspension. And then you've also got your steering mode. So normal is exactly that, basic throws. Comfort means that you have to throw a little bit more in order to be able to turn, versus sport stiffens things up quite a little bit. So sport would be very, very useful if you're going off-road, tighter turns, whatever the case may be. So you've got a few different modes that are available. And then, like I said there, you can fully customize your Raptor mode in order to select what you'd like. So I know that is a heck of a lot of information, but that's everything you need to know about the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the Ranger Raptor.